When I passed away, I smiled and said to the emperor, "Next life, I still want to be your empress and give birth to our child." Okay, I saw him seem to speak, but I couldn't hear clearly anymore. He must have agreed to me. Right. When I opened my eyes again, I waited to be bestowed marriage to him again. But what came was that he would marry Jiang Yunyan, the daughter of the minister, so he also underwent rebirth. So, he didn't agree after all. Later, the young lord and I had our wedding night. He stood outside the door all night. In my previous life, I became the crown prince consort. After a power struggle, the crown prince successfully ascended the throne, and I was made empress. In the vast imperial palace, we were still like an ordinary loving couple. He drew my eyebrows and painted for me. We released paper mandarin ducks together. We disguised ourselves and roamed the markets during the Lantern Festival, and we made wishes until I passed away from illness. I was always his most beloved empress. So when I found myself having undergone rebirth, I thought this life was to make up for the regret of my early death, due to an illness caused by schemes in my previous life. In this life, I would guard against schemes, take good care of my health, give birth to children, and live a loving life with him until old age. When I heard that the crown prince went south to suppress bandits, and also built dikes to manage floods, I suddenly understood that he also underwent rebirth. These were all things that happened years later in the previous life. But he gained merits early this time. Then, would our marriage also be advanced? I waited with a What came, however, was the crown prince requesting the emperor to grant a marriage, to marry Jiang Yunyan, the daughter of the Minister of Revenue, as his crown princess. Only then did I know. So it turns out when I was on my deathbed, he didn't actually agree to my words about being with him in the next life. At the banquet at Princess Yuanhua's manor, I saw Li Yuanzhao. He was just like in his previous life, in splendid robes and a jade belt, dignified and splendid. Everyone stood up and bowed. He indifferently waved his hand. His gaze seemed to fall on my spot, but swept past indifferently, without even a slight ripple. It was as if in this life, we were mere strangers. And indeed, we were strangers. A lovely young girl walked up to him. His expression instantly softened, and he raised his hand to straighten her playfully, slightly loose hibiscus hairpin. What a perfect couple. Qingli. Look, you and that Miss Jiang. You really are quite similar. A noblewoman next to me said. Yes, she is practically the crown princess now. It is really making people envious. Another minister's daughter said. I heard. The crown prince and Miss Jiang met on the Lantern Festival. At that time, Miss Jiang didn't know that was His Royal Highness, the crown prince, until the marriage was bestowed. What a wonderful tale. So that is how it is. So in the previous life, Li Yuanzhao happened to have business and left the capital, while Jiang Yunyan met the new top scholar, parading through the talented scholar and beautiful lady quickly got engaged and married. When Li Yuanzhao returned to the capital, he learned that the beautiful lady had already married. Then he met me, who bore some resemblance to Jiang Yunyan. I also had a decent status, the legitimate daughter of the censor-in-chief, so he married me. Later, I heard that the young lady of the Jiang family was out for a carriage ride, and met a sworn enemy of the top scholar's family, perishing tragically. I remember there was one day, he was completely drunk, muttering, if I had married you a little earlier, would everything have been different? At that time I seemed to foolishly say, it is not too late now. He vaguely stroked my face. Why isn't it her? Oh, Qingli, why are you crying? The daughter of the Minister of Personnel asked in surprise. Something got into my eye. I lowered my head and wiped it away. So in this life, he married her earlier. I stayed away from the banquet, walking to the waterside pavilion for a moment of peace, but unluckily ran into Li Yuanzhao and Jiang Yunyan. I had already failed to avoid them. Prince brother, I always hear that this Miss Shen bears some resemblance to me. Do you think we look alike? Jiang Yunyan asked in her clear voice. I stiffened. His clear, jade-like voice came. Yana is as delicate as a hibiscus flower, unique and incomparable to anyone. No, she doesn't. Prince brother. Jiang Yunyan's face flushed red. I curtsied slightly, then turned and left. I hid in a secluded spot in the rockery and took out a hibiscus hairpin from my sleeve, thinking of my previous life, all the hibiscus flower clothes and hibiscus flower jewelry he gave me. I thought it was him giving me things he liked. The truth is truly cruel. I came here today because I was indeed a bit unwilling, wanting to ask him one question, but now it seems there is no need to ask anymore. I raised my hand and threw the hibiscus hairpin in my hand towards the pond. Over there, someone suddenly walked out. Hairpin was thrown. That person wore a jade belt hook, with a gold-inlaid jade pendant hanging, looked extremely handsome, and was dressed exactly like a dissolute young master. He reached out and caught it, then looked at the hairpin in his hand, and then raised an eyebrow to look at me, tears streaming down my face. I'm sorry. I quickly stood up and went over, reaching out to take the hairpin from his hand. I turned my head and finally threw it into the pond. Then I turned and left. But unexpectedly, as I quickly stepped out of the rockery, I actually bumped into someone head-on. I was knocked back a step. That person instinctively reached out to catch me, but upon seeing me clearly, he let go and pulled away, as if he didn't want to get dirty with something. I bumped into a fake rock to steady myself. Only then did I clearly see that the person in front of me was Li Yuanzhao. I quickly bowed. Your Royal Highness, please forgive me. This humble daughter was not paying attention to the road. He waved his hand indifferently. I walked past him with my eyes lowered. The young girl next to him glanced at me and walked past. Crown Prince brother, is she? Jiang Yunyan's voice carried displeasure towards me. Let her do whatever she wants. It also depends if she has the ability, Li Yuanzhao said coldly. Vaguely, those repeated sounds of a lie, my good, a lie, echoed by my ear. Everything really can be fake. The gentleness of the previous life was fake. The coldness of this life is him. I didn't expect Jiang Yunyan would make trouble for me because of this. I was feeding fish by the inn's pond, and asked my maid Chu Tao to go buy some more fish food. Unexpectedly, Jiang Yunyan came aggressively with her maids and servants, and a slap came flying towards me. I hurriedly dodged. Miss, what is this for? Her slap was dodged, and she gritted her teeth in displeasure. How can you be so shameless? Actually wanting to seduce Crown Prince brother, by taking advantage of your slight resemblance to me. Miss, please don't talk nonsense. Last time I just accidentally bumped into His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince. There was no other interaction, I said seriously. Hemph. Why would Crown Prince brother look at you twice? Why did you just happen to bump into the Crown Prince? You're still arguing. You shameless fay. Jiang Yunyan stepped forward again to pull at me. I frowned and quickly shook her off. But she grabbed my sleeve, then glanced somewhere. And as if guided by my hand, she seemed to be pushed by me and fell into the river. I stiffened. Not good. I'm being set up. I quickly leaped into the river as well, miss. Chu Tao rushed over from a distance. Gurgle gurgle, help! Jiang Yunyan and I were calling for help in the river. Yana Lianzhao rushed over. He jumped into the river and swam towards Jiang Yunyan's side, quickly bringing her ashore. I was still gurgling and struggling to scramble around. Li Yuanzhao instructed the guards to go into the river to save me, but there was a figure that was faster. I was also quickly brought ashore. Over there, Jiang Yunyan had already been covered by the Crown Prince, with dry clothes to hide her drenched body. The man who brought me ashore also quickly told his servant to get clothes from the inn. He was the person I threw the hairpin at that day. Crown Prince brother. It was her. It was her who pushed me into the water. Jiang Yunyan cried, accusingly. Li Yuanzhao's sharp eyes shot towards me. He is now the esteemed Crown Prince, and with his memories of being an emperor in his previous life, his gaze was utterly intimidating. Chu Tao, who had helped me up, even shivered. I didn't. Miss Jiang, you accidentally fell into the water. I clearly jumped into the river to save you. Why would I push you into the water, and then jump in myself? I immediately refuted, every word firm and forceful. The man who rescued me and brought me ashore curved his lips and glanced at me again. Jiang Yunyan was stunned, for a moment not knowing how to argue. It was you who pushed me into the water. Otherwise, why would I fall into the water for no reason? Crown Prince brother, she really has endless tricks. She repeatedly ran into you at Princess Yuanhua's banquet. And now this again. Your Royal Highness, please investigate thoroughly. As the daughter of the Censor-in-Chief, I will not tolerate anyone's baseless slandering and smearing, I said firmly with a cold voice. Li Yuanzhao's cold gaze swept over me. This matter will be investigated thoroughly later, but the daughter of the Censor-in-Chief must also mind her words and actions, and not rush forward recklessly again. I pursed my lips. He then softly looked at the person in his arms. Yana, let me take you back to change your clothes first. To avoid catching a cold. Jiang Yunyan responded weakly. Li Yuanzhao stood up, holding Jiang Yunyan, and then glanced at the man who had rescued me from the water. Young Master Shao, you certainly have the leisure to save people. Young Master Shao rubbed his nose. When a beautiful lady falls into the water, how can one just stand by and do nothing? Li Yuanzhao scoffed coldly, then left, holding Jiang Yunyan, with his guards following him. Suddenly, I recalled my previous life. He had gone south and hadn't returned, and I was called into the palace by the imperial noble consort, who wanted to force me to hand over a seal he had entrusted me with. The imperial noble consort had her people push me into an ice cellar. I held on, refusing to compromise, until I was on my last breath. When I woke up, I was in the Crown Prince's mansion bedroom, with Li Yuanzhao by my side. He gently stroked my face. I'm sorry, I came back late. I shook my head weakly. The seal is still here. They couldn't take it. He embraced me tightly. Ali, I will clear everything as soon as possible, and I will protect you well from now on. It was also that time that I developed a chronic illness, making me unable to conceive again. The man from my previous life, who said he would protect me well, has now rushed towards another woman, only protecting another woman. Actually, I should say, my being protected in my previous life was also because of her. A large palm waved in front of me. Did you get silly from falling into the water? I snapped back to my senses and looked at the person in front of me who looked like a dissolute young master. Thank you, young Master Shao, for saving me. I sincerely thanked him. Seeing the way I looked, he gave a light cough. Hurry back and change your clothes. Then he turned and left. My parents at Shen Manor were discussing arranging a marriage for me. I took Q Tao and went out. At the entrance of a place called Qinglefang, I saw young Master Xiao Yunying walking out, still clearly enjoying the music he'd heard. Young Master. I stepped forward and called out. Xiao Yunying looked at me in confusion, then suddenly realized, I really wanted to thank you properly again for what happened last time, I said. He raised an eyebrow. You deliberately waited here to thank me. Don't tell me you're infatuated with me. I looked at him. Does young Master Shao have a beloved? He paused, stiffened, and then stepped back 2 paces, hugging himself. Miss Shen, what do you intend to do? If you don't have a beloved, would you be willing to marry me? I stated my true intention. Xiao Yunying looked at me as if in utter shock. Miss Shen, why are you so bold as to propose to a respectable man like me? Chu Tao beside me also looked at me in astonishment. Young Master Shao, will you marry me? I asked sincerely again. Xiao Yunjing waved his hand. This young master hasn't had enough fun yet. My shoulders slumped. Well, sorry to bother you then. I turned around and left. Wait. I will. Xiao Yunjing hurriedly and anxiously grabbed me. Xiao Yunjing stiffened and paused. His earlobes seemed a little red. But you need to think it through. I'm notoriously known as an ignorant and idle dandy. I also mimicked him, raising an eyebrow playfully. Is that so? He paused, as if he'd been seen through with nowhere to hide. His voice even stammered. You just ask around and you'll know. I shrugged. He stared steadily at me. Are you really willing to marry me? I nodded, extremely seriously. The next day, the old madam of Zhongguo Gongfu personally came to propose marriage. This seriousness made my father and mother anxiously and eagerly entertain her. This was the most respected old Madame Xiao in Shangjing now, but the reputation of this young Master Xiao was truly that of a useless good-for-nothing who only fought chickens and walked dogs. So my father and mother hesitantly said they would consult their daughter for her opinion. I walked out directly and said, Father, Mother, I am willing. Father and mother was old Madame Xiao happily held my hand. Good child. She placed the family heirloom jade bracelet on my wrist. After the Xiao family left, father looked at me. Are you truly willing to marry the young Master Xiao? I nodded seriously. Leah, are you not still making a rash decision because of the Crown Prince's matter? Mother said worriedly. Hearing mother's words, I gave a bitter smile. I remember when I had just rebirth, I told mother that I would marry the Crown Prince. Mother smiled and said, how could the Crown Prince be someone one could marry just by saying so? I said mysteriously that mother would know later. And then, I heard about the engagement between the Crown Prince and Jiang Yunyan. At that time, I was like a clown. Fortunately, father, mother and Qutao wouldn't laugh. Those few days, I was in a very bad mood, and father and mother were extremely worried. Later, seeing that I was fine, they finally relaxed. I shook my head at this moment. The Crown Prince's matter has nothing to do with me anymore. Mother relaxed, but then became worried again. Although Zhongguo Gongfu is a top-tier household, this young Master Xiao might not treat you well. Mother, don't worry. Young Master Xiao is actually a very good person. In my previous life, I had, of course, met Xiao Yunjing. His profligate appearance was actually to ease His Majesty's mind. Zhongguo Gongfu's prestige is too great. The Zhongguo Gong is leading 10,000 Xiao family troops to guard the pass. So the young Master Xiao in the capital must certainly be an idle person. After that day's incident of falling into the water, Jiang Yunyan and I had formed an enmity, and she will be the crown princess in the future, so I'm afraid there will be plenty of schemes waiting for me. So I need to find a marriage for myself as soon as possible. A marriage that Li Yuanzhao wouldn't allow Jiang Yunyan to mess around with, because the future Xiao Yunjing will be Li Yuanzhao's greatest aid in ascending to the throne. Now, Li Yuanzhao, who has memories of his previous life, will be even more likely to stabilize and even protect the current Xiao Yunjing. The news of my engagement to Xiao Yunjing spread like wildfire. The playboy young Master Xiao no longer engaged in cockfighting and dog racing. Instead, he took his fiancée to feast on all sorts of delicacies, which was definitely the playboy young master's strong suit. Upon returning to the mansion, I learned that the Crown Prince had paid a visit. I hadn't even had time to enter my own courtyard when I met him in the main courtyard. I casually curtsied and was about to leave. Is Miss Shen going to marry young Master Xiao? He asked in a calm voice. The other party was the Crown Prince, so I had no choice but to stop and answer. Yes. Li Yuanzhao scoffed. What did Miss Shen see in young Master Xiao? Cockfighting and dog racing, a frequent visitor to brothels and pleasure houses. I looked at him with puzzled eyes. Young Master Xiao and I are well matched in social status and compatible in temperament. Your Royal Highness also knows he saved me last time, and I trust his character. I don't understand why your Royal Highness needs to concern yourself with young Master Xiao's and my marriage. Li Yuanzhao looked at me with deep eyes. Unless you know what Xiao Yunjing will become later. I still looked at him with innocent confusion. His words faltered. If your Royal Highness has nothing else, I will take my leave. Then Autumn Peach and I left. May my husband Yuan Zhao be eternally happy and healthy, enjoying this prosperous era, until he is old and grey. Li Yuanzhao suddenly recited a line from behind. I was startled. That was a wish I had written on a long burning lamp, while strolling through the flower market, during the Lantern Festival. In my previous, he was testing if I had also experienced rebirth. I pretended to be completely unaware, and calmly departed. It was also as if I hadn't heard his words of relief. Never mind, at least you have a good place to be. The Shaanxi Festival outing was a popular festival among the upper class in the capital. In the countryside, various families set up tents, with people outside boating on the lake, enjoying flowers, engaging in poetry duels, archery, or going hunting. Xiao Yunqing took me on horseback to a spot in the mountains and forests. He took something out from his embrace. It was an apricot blossom hairpin. Last time you lost a hibiscus hairpin, so I thought I'd find you a hairpin. I think an apricot blossom hairpin suits you better. He carefully handed it over. Afraid I would refuse, I dazedly took the apricot blossom hairpin from his hand. I vaguely recalled a sentence that the new duke, who had been invincible and remained unmarried in my previous life, had said to me. Does Her Majesty the Empress like hibiscus? I thought Her Majesty the Empress loved apricot blossoms the most. In my previous life, I also froze when I heard this sentence. I had always liked apricot blossoms, but Li Yuanzhao liked hibiscus, and always gave me hibiscus accessories. Because I loved what he loved, I also got used to using hibiscus. But why did Xiao Yunjing know I liked apricot blossoms in the previous life, and in this life, still so clearly gave me an apricot blossom hairpin? It is as if he already knew me. What is wrong? Don't you like it? He asked nervously. I snapped out of it, holding the apricot blossom hairpin. He let out a sigh of relief. I knew this young master's taste was top-notch. I smiled and handed it back to him. You put it on me. His eyes brightened. He took the hairpin and gently placed it in my hair. I thought it was some young lovers having a secret rendezvous here. Turns out it is young Master Xiao and Miss Shen. Over there, Li Yuanzhao, with his arm around Jiang Yunyan, slowly rode over on the same horse, and Jiang Yunyan scoffed. Your Royal Highness, the Crown Prince. The two of them bowed. Li Yuanzhao, with his arm around Jiang Yunyan, dismounted from the horse. Crown Prince brother, look at Miss Shen's hairpin. Was it given by young Master Xiao? Do you think Miss Shen's apricot blossom hairpin looks better? Or, the hibiscus hairpin you gave me looks better? Jiang Yunyan leaned against Li Yuanzhao, speaking tenderly. Li Yuanzhao raised his eyes and glanced at the hairpin on my head, then curled his lips and playfully tapped her cute nose. Don't tell me you think what I gave you can't compare to what others gave. Of course not. Brother Crown Prince's gift is the prettiest, Jiang Yunyan quickly said sweetly. Xiao Yunjing smiled faintly. That is right. Miss Jiang thinks the Crown Prince's is good. Qingli will also think mine is the best. Li Yunzhao suddenly looked at me nonchalantly. Is that so, Miss Shen? My eyes were faint. Of course, I've always loved apricot blossoms, and Yunjing sent them perfectly. Li Yuanzhao slightly pursed his thin lips. How can apricot blossoms compare to the delicate beauty of hibiscus? Jiang Yunyan hadn't finished speaking, but suddenly, an arrow came tearing through the air. Xiao Yunjing pulled me close, sidestepping to dodge it. Li Yuanzhao also hastily pulled Jiang Yunyan, who was beside him, to dodge. Black-clad masked figures appeared from all directions. Assassins! The Crown Prince's shadow guards shouted and rushed out. Soon, the assassins and shadow guards were fighting fiercely. Li Yuanzhao and Jiang Yunyan were protected by many guards. Xiao Yunjing tightly protected me, fending off countless attacks, but the assassins came prepared and were numerous, all targeting Li Yuanzhao, as if vowing to take his life. Jiang Yunyan, in Li Yuanzhao's arms, was so frightened, her body went limp. The guards protecting Li Yuanzhao were quickly pushed aside. Li Yuanzhao faced the attacks while also struggling to support Jiang Yunyan with one hand. I took the sword from a fallen guard and aimed it at the enemy. Xiao Yunjing tightly protected me. I will protect you. I glanced at him. Together, in my previous life, Li Yuanzhao and I had also experienced several such scenes. As Xiao Yunjing faced an assassin, attacking me from the side, I saw a sword swinging towards Jiang Yunyan. I hurriedly stabbed from behind the assassin. Other assassins found me, and their knives came slashing at me. Li Yuanzhao raised his sword and parried the knife slashing at me. We exchanged a glance, and then tacitly moved into position. He wrapped an arm around me, leapt into the air, and kicked towards the assassin. Then he put me down, and I smoothly squatted down from his embrace to lead away Jiang Yunyan, who was trembling and huddled there. Over there, Xiao Yunjing, forcing back an assassin, saw this scene of me and Li Yuanzhao, acting with such natural understanding. He froze for a moment, but when he saw a sword swing towards me, he rushed over to protect me. We finally held out until reinforcements arrived. With 10 miles of red bridal decorations, I married into the Duke Zhengguo's mansion. On our wedding night, he lifted the red veil. He gazed blankly at me beneath the veil. I also looked at him. Just when I thought he was about to do something, he instead sat down beside me and spoke softly. Qingli, perhaps I'm not the one in your heart. If you don't wish to, I won't touch you. If you want to leave someday, I'll give you a letter of divorce. I was stunned, thinking that ever since the day we encountered the assassins, he had seemed a bit strange. I reached out and held his hand. I don't have anyone in my heart. I willingly married you, and I want to spend my life with you. He stared blankly at the hand I had covered, then looked up at me, his eyes growing clearer. I said, disappointed, and let go of his hand. Qingli, he hastily grabbed my hand, looking at me anxiously. I will. I looked at him with a radiant smile. He looked dazed again, then embraced me, pressing me down beneath him. Then it is settled. From now on, no matter who it is. I raised an eyebrow. He anxiously kissed me, as if afraid I'd go back on my word. A kiss stirred emotions, and he softly said, Wife, I have a bad reputation outside, but I've never been with anyone else. Don't be afraid I'm dirty. I smiled, wrapping my arms around his back. He excitedly kissed me. The red curtains fell inside the bridal chamber. The room was filled with intimate passion. Outside the bridal chamber, a man in brocade robes and a jade belt stood silently there, watching the red can. Then, he resolutely departed. The next day, I tiredly got out of bed. Xiao Yunjing held and kissed me. Wife, you've worked hard. I gave him a reproachful look. It was all because he didn't know how to control himself. Xiao Yunjing joyfully held me, personally helping me. Then he sat down in front of the bronze mirror. I looked in the bronze mirror, at my face and Xiao Yunjing's reflected there. In a trance, I recalled that in my previous life, Li Yuanzhao and I also had many such moments. He liked to draw my eyebrows, and would lean his head against my neck, teasing and messing around while I was doing my makeup. I could only laugh and say it tickled, making him move away. If there was nothing else to do, he'd get playful, and continue to fool around, then carry me back to bed. When moved by passion he would say, Ah Li, I will search everywhere for famous doctors, and rare medicines for you. Will you stay with me for a lifetime? Okay? The deep affection I once thought was because in that lifetime, Jiang Yunyan passed away early, and he needed me, this stand-in, to always be by his side. A sudden sound broke my trance. I looked up at him with a smile. I'm very happy that you are my husband. In this life, I am no longer the Empress. Xiao Yunjing was again coaxed by a single sentence, and happily pecked me. Xiao Yunjing was outside, and a hidden guard approached him, and reported in a low voice. Last night, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince stood outside the door for a long time before leaving. Xiao Yunjing paused, his eyes carrying a hint of deep thought, and waved his hand. He saw me stepping out of the door, recovered his composure, and smilingly came forward to embrace me. My dear wife, be careful. Last night your husband was reckless. Today your husband will support you all day long. Okay, Xiao Yunjing, less of your mischief. Young masters from various noble families were freely moving about in the woods. Family members and noble ladies sat in groups of 3 or 5 on the grass. Li Xiao Yunjing galloped his horse towards me. Hearing this name, Li Yuanzhao over there froze for a moment, then turned to look over. Xiao Yunjing hurriedly dismounted, covered in sweat, holding a bunch of apricot blossom branches in his hands. Li, I saw the apricot blossoms on that hilltop, blooming beautifully. I picked the prettiest ones. Do you think they're pretty? He placed it in front of me as if offering a treasure. I frowned. That apricot tree on the mountaintop, isn't it by the steep cliff? Humph. You still don't believe your husband's skills. He pouted and moved a little closer. Do you like it or not, huh? I helplessly took it. I like it. Seeing him covered in sweat, I helplessly reached out to wipe his sweat. He foolishly smiled and bent down, letting me wipe his sweat. The noble ladies and young masters around all looked over. I really didn't expect. Young Master Xiao became henpecked after getting married. Exactly. He doesn't play with us anymore. All day long it is, my wife. My wife, no time. The fop young masters who used to play with him were also tutting. After that, Xiao Yunqing was again sitting beside me. He tore off the most tender and fragrant parts and fed them to me. I also ate with gusto, smiling as I reached out to wipe his mouth again. Crown Prince brother, what are you looking at? Jiang Yunyan asked with a hint of grievance. Li Yuanzhao's expression returned to normal as he retracted his gaze. Apart from the Crown Prince's grand wedding, and Duke Zhengguo's return to the capital due to injury, the capital was calm. However, border warfare began amidst this calm, and with Duke Zhengguo not defending the border at this moment, the Xiongnu army had already broken through the city, and were invading in full force. The emperor immediately ordered several generals to go. After continuous defeats, there was no choice but to ask Duke Zhengguo to come out and suppress them. However, Duke Zhengguo's current physical condition no longer allowed it. That night, Xiao Yunjing wore a look of worry. As we were settling down for the night, I leaned into his arms. Go, Xiao Yunjing. I'll wait for your triumphant return. Xiao Yunjing held me tightly and kissed me hard. I will definitely be back soon. Return safely. I'll be waiting for you, I said softly. Xiao Yunjing kissed me tearfully and reluctantly. The Crown Prince strongly recommended him, so Xiao Yunjing took his father's place in the campaign. After Xiao Yunjing defeated the commander of the Imperial Guards in the arena, the capital was in an uproar. Subsequently, Xiao Yunjing led the Xiao family army to depart. Xiao Yunjing repelled the invading enemies all the way, confronting them at the border pass. Months and years flew by. In the final battle, he rode directly to the enemy's imperial palace, forcing them to sign a surrender document, agreeing not to invade for the next 30 years. On the day he returned, the entire city cheered. I stood on the city wall with our daughter Yang Yang, gazing at the leading man, who carried an awe-inspiring presence. But when he looked up and saw us, mother and daughter, he flashed that familiar smile from 4 years ago. He rushed up the city wall and embraced me, tightly and eagerly. Daddy! Yang Yang looked up and called out. Yang Yang knew her daddy was a great general, who protected the country, and a great hero. He bent down, picked Yang Yang up, put one arm around me, and kissed my face. Ali, I'm back, I smiled and nodded, raising my hand to caress his weathered face. Over there, Li Yuanzhao stood there. Congratulations, General Xiao, on your triumphant return. Xiao Yunjing, who returned in time, not only returned victorious, but the emperor was already seriously ill, and the various princes were already restless, and now with Xiao Yunjing leading the soldiers back, After various forces vied in power struggles and schemes, Xiao Yunjing brought his army to suppress them. The emperor passed away, and the crown prince successfully ascended the throne. Concubines were enforced, but the empress's position remained vacant. Xiao Yunjing handed over his military tally. He specifically requested that the Xiao family army be renamed the Huyu army. During the days Xiao Yunjing was away fighting, some things actually happened. Li Yunzhao came to find me, he said. If I wanted to, I could still be his crown princess, his empress. I looked at him in disbelief, and vomited in front of him. I was pregnant. There was trouble with Jiang Yunyan. She caused the death of a pregnant concubine, and was deposed from her position as crown princess. If I was 3 or 4 parts similar to Jiang Yunyan, then that pregnant concubine was 6 or 7 parts similar to me. How ridiculous. The last time Li Yuanzhao and I met alone, it was to clarify everything. He would be emperor in the future, and I didn't want any hidden troubles later on. I knelt before him, kneeling before the future emperor. In my previous life, I Shen Qingli had only you, Li Yuanzhao. We were husband and wife for a lifetime, and we were happy. This cannot be changed. But reborn into this life, you gave up our Yuanfen. Fate was rewritten from the very beginning. Perhaps in the next life, it will be a different ending again. So, in this life, please let me go. In this life, I want to grow old together with my husband, Xiao Yunyan. Extra story. Xiao Yunying's past life. When Xiao Yunying was young, he had to pretend to be mischievous, and was always punished by kneeling in the Buddhist hall. One time, he was so hungry his stomach rumbled gulu gulu, when suddenly, a little girl darted in from beside the door. Brother, what is wrong, brother? Are you bored? Shall I keep you company? Brother, are you hungry? Here, have an almond. It was the last almond, and she reluctantly gave it to him. But as she watched him about to put it in his mouth, her round, rolling eyes gazed at him eagerly. Her eyes lit up. She took a bite of the almond, then handed him the half almond, stained with her saliva. Her face was full of innocent sincerity. He ate it. He heard that she was a girl from the Shen family, who had come with her grandfather to worship Buddha. The next time he saw her, she no longer ate almonds, but instead picked almond blossoms. He often saw her occasionally walking past from the upper floors of various taverns and elegant residences. Sometimes she'd go to a jewelry shop, sometimes a pastry shop, sometimes an art gallery. He always looked like he was casually drinking and having fun, yet his gaze would be fixed on that figure. She was actually betrothed to the crown prince. Go to the battlefield. Many years later, he met her on the palace path. He felt a trace of doubt. Does Her Majesty the Empress like hibiscus? I thought Her Majesty the Empress loved apricot blossoms the most. She also froze in a daze. He couldn't help but wonder from time to time. Was the emperor truly as deeply devoted to her as the rumors outside said? But no matter what, the emperor did not protect her well. Her body was. If it were him instead, could he have protected her well? This life without past life memories. A hibiscus hairpin was tossed out onto the rockery. Xiao Yunqing casually caught it, and saw her face full of tear stains. A flicker of worry flashed through him, but he raised an eyebrow on his face, like a dissolute young master. Who made her like this? At the banquet, she seemed to have looked at the crown prince a few more times. Has she fallen for the crown prince? Did she see someone sad next to the crown prince? Seeing her leap into the pond, he momentarily disregarded hiding his martial arts, and flew towards her. She is really interesting. Her body is really soft. Hurry and get clothes to cover her. But she was again staring at the crown prince, lost in thought. Does she like him that much? If young Master Xiao has no beloved, would you be willing to marry me? What? He was in a daze for a moment, thinking he was hallucinating. She said really. He swallowed his saliva. She was dejected, and about to give up. No, he is willing. She is his. He just didn't expect the pie to fall on his head. That day, they encountered assassins. The tacit understanding between her and the Crown Prince seemed not to have formed overnight. Why his secret guards investigated, and she and the Crown Prince didn't know each other before. But he wanted to have her so badly. Even if the marriage was just her expedient plan, at least, they had bowed in the hall. He was also afraid she would resent him. She could leave freely. His heart was so flustered, so afraid she would really leave just like that. Her hand, however, covered his hand back, which was actually trembling. I have no sweetheart. I willingly marry you, and want to spend my life with you. His heart was beating fiercely. He was hers. No one was allowed to steal him away. Crown Prince Scram. So beautiful, everything. Below. So beautiful, everything. So satisfied. So happy. Damn, that perverted Crown Prince, coming to be a tree stump. Spying on him and his wife's intimate moments. Ignore him. His wife is Xiao Yunjing's anyway. She calmly stated that the Crown Prince would be a wise ruler. He stared at her blankly. He didn't feel at all that his wife still had any feelings for the Crown Prince. Then let Li Yuanzhao firmly rule his country and enjoy his boundless loneliness. During nap time, Xiao Yunjing hugged her, leaning on the couch, and gently fanned her with a fan. Ali, I had a dream last night. What dream? She replied lazily and tiredly. I dreamed you married the Crown Prince, but your health was very poor. So sad. He rubbed against her neck distressfully, his wet eyes rubbing against her shoulder. Quickly wipe them. She raised her hand to caress his face. What about you then? I grew old in solitude. He propped her hand with his face. It is just a dream in this life. We'll both be fine, she said softly. He kissed her neck. This life. So, that's something from a past life. Daddy, Mommy, Yang Yang and Jojo want to go fly kites. Extra. Li Yuanzhao's past life on the day of the Lantern Festival. A lively and agile girl bumped into Li Yuanzhao's arms. He hid his identity, watching her hibiscus-like face, playful and spoiled. Unfortunately, when he returned to the capital after a mission, she was already married. Though he was the noble Crown Prince, the princes were plotting. His foundation was still very shallow. He couldn't be burdened by love. At the banquet, the face of that censor's daughter made him dazed. Shen Qingli became his crown princess. Bad news arrived. That girl in his heart simply died, just like that. He got drunk and lost control, saying, why wasn't it her? Unfortunately, Shen Qingli was a little foolish and didn't notice. He still couldn't be troubled by love, forever buried in his heart. He just increasingly wanted Shen Qingli to wear the hibiscus hairpin, and he would show her the utmost tenderness. She didn't know I was seeing someone else through her. Because of his tenderness, she gradually gazed at him with deep affection. Though she was a stand-in, they still weathered many storms together. She suffered many malicious plots and hardships for him, was assassinated, was thrown into an ice cellar, was a victim of arson, was held captive. During his imperial reign, he let her, with that similar face, firmly hold the position of Empress, even without an heir. All the tenderness he had wanted to give to that girl from the Lantern Festival, but couldn't, he gave to her. She was lost, completely lost. So, at the time of her death, unfortunately, he wanted to give his next life to that girl deeply hidden in his heart. Li Yuanzhao. This life he really rebirthed. He first established achievements, then eagerly requested a decree for marriage. In this life, he would finally have that delicate and charming girl from the Lantern. Also rewrote her fate of premature death. The next time he saw Shen Qingli, she sat elegantly among the noble ladies. His heart was calm, and by his side, there was already a hibiscus-like maiden. He gently adjusted her hairpin for her. 2 chance encounters. He always felt that Shen Qingli had a trace of the shadow of her being Empress in her previous life. Could it be that she also rebirthed? But no matter what it was, it had nothing to do with him anymore. The day she fell into the water, he actually instinctively rushed towards Shen Qingli, but he immediately snapped back to reality. This was no longer the previous life. Not the previous life where they walked hand in hand. In this life, the rightful owner had returned. It was just that seeing Shen Qingli being saved by another man, her drenched body in another man's arms, he always felt a trace of unpleasantness. The moment he learned the news, it was as if he was hit hard again, feeling somewhat dazed and suffocated. Shen Qingli was going to belong to someone else. Shen Qingli was really going to belong to another man. The woman who had owned his entire previous life was actually going to belong to another man, he thought. Perhaps it had nothing to do with love, but rather that something that inherently belonged to him, even if he didn't want it, was still his, and shouldn't be given to anyone else. He once again lost control, and went to the Shen mansion. He saw her indifferent expression, firmly stating her mute. He had once seen her shy appearance. He always felt that in this life, when she saw him, she was too indifferent, even deliberately keeping her distance many times. He tested her. She heard it, yet she acted as if she hadn't heard. A lie. The most normal reaction should actually be to turn her head in confusion and glance, instead of pretending not to hear. Ah, Shen Qingli really also had a rebirth. Forget it. Jiang Yunyan, the future chief minister. In the previous life, he never married and retired early. In this life, a Li marrying him is actually quite suitable. Neither of them loses out. Assassins attack. They cooperated skillfully. At that moment, he held her body, and amidst the flashing blades and clashing swords, he also grew reluctant to let go. Dazed for a moment, he finally let go. The day they got married, once again, he felt a sense of breakdown. He stood outside their wedding chamber the entire time. Suddenly, he wished for an accident to happen. Shen Qingli, perhaps she couldn't accept another man. She had called him husband for so many years. She had blossomed completely in his arms. She has memories from her previous life. How could she still so calmly and rightfully marry someone else? She really did willingly marry someone else. The candlelight flickered, flickering with a lifetime of beautiful passion. He stood there, while inside, it never stopped. Shen Qingli really became some. He shook his head, turned around and left. It is fine, it doesn't matter. Shen Qingli was just a stand-in. He had the woman he truly wanted. Once he got the woman he truly wanted, Shen Qingli would be cast aside. He was the one who didn't want her in the first place. He, Yuan Zhao, had called her a Li for an entire lifetime. Xiao Yunyan ran towards her like that. She showed him such a helplessly doting expression, wiping his sweat for him. That kind of intimacy and tenderness, that once belonged to him. That clearly once belonged to him. On their wedding day, he lifted the bridal veil, looking at that bashful face. In a daze, he recalled the day he married Shen Qingli, that nervous, shy yet earnest look she gave him. In a daze, it was all Shen Qingli by his side. Everything at this moment became dull and meaningless. He suddenly, in the years of his previous life, what he was used to, what he wanted, was Shen Qingli, what stand-in, what beloved one in his heart. The person in front of him was clearly Shen Qingli. Xiao Yunyan went off to war. He couldn't help but wonder if he could seize the opportunity. They could have had a child of their own. At night, he embraced a woman who was 60 or 70%, like Shen Qingli, and became lost in an intoxicated haze. But this time, he clearly knew that it was merely for comfort. He didn't want anything other than to give. Unlike back then with Shen Qingli, the concubine was surprisingly killed by Jiang Yunyan. He carefully settled her family. He also dealt with Jiang Yunyan. As for them, they surprisingly stirred no emotions in him. But that woman, who had clearly penetrated to his bone marrow, was abandoned by himself. Shen Qingli, I regret it.